and good afternoon, and welcome to the second session of Day 2 at CREDAI-MCHI Grand Property Expo 2022. Now, this is a very special topic that we're discussing. This is something that everybody has gone through. It is the journey of you when you get your home. So, right from the time when you think, I want to buy a house, I want to buy a home, till the time you actually receive the key, it's a journey. And we're here to explore the journey of the customers in real estate, and we've got a fantastic panel. So starting up with the co-founder of Zapkey, Mr. Shubhankar Dongre. Can we please put our hands together as we welcome him to the stage? Joining him is the partner in EY, Mr. Chaitanya, Seth. We have the Chief Sales Officer for the Lodha Group, Mr. Prashant, Bindal. And our last panelist is the Brand Custodian and Chief Customer Delight Officer for Rustomjee, Mr. Kaizad, Hateria. Good to see you, sir. Thank you for joining us. And here, another superstar as our moderator. He is the real estate columnist for Money Control, Mr. Vishal Bhargava. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you for your valuable time. Mr. Vishal, stage is yours.
Thank you, Akarshak. This is, I think, probably the most important discussion on a topic that has the most relevance in the next 3 years, given the type of supply we are likely to see, given the FSI discount that happened last year, which triggered a big rush in projects. Prashant, I have to ask you first. Your company is known as a sales machinery. You handle projects at different extremes, different segments. What are you seeing customers gravitate to when they are buying an apartment? If you can tell me across both extremes of your projects.
First of all, Vishal, we are in the most exciting times. Most exciting times. We are so fortunate that we are seeing these times. Now, I've been in this industry since 2016, so almost 7 years. And there was a certain kind of a consumer behavior, a customer behavior, everything for first 4 years that I saw. And last 2 years has been amazingly amazing. I could not believe that coming from a different industry. I headed operations for Coca-Cola in India, that real estate could show this kind of momentum the way it is showing now. So we are at great times. Especially now in India, when India doing so well, and within that Bombay, we are all fortunate we are in Bombay. It's by fortune, but the fact is Bombay is Bombay. India's top 7 cities contribute to roughly about, so many people ask me, Prashant, why don't you go there? Why don't you go to Lucknow? Why don't you go to Noida? Why don't you go to Gurgaon? But when you're in Bombay, what have you to think of something else? The top 7 cities are 220,000 crore market last year. Out of that 220,000 crore market, Bombay itself is 45,000 crores. So that is 50% of almost, so for 45,000 crore is 70,000 crore is Bombay. 70,000 crore is Bombay. And this year, the way the first half sales has happened, it will go to 90,000 crore. The total market of top 7 cities will go from 220 to say roughly 250 or 260, and 90,000 crore would be Bombay. The second city is Bangalore, much touted Bangalore, but 35,000 crore. Then is NCR at 37,000 crore. Then is Pune at 25,000 crore. Then is Hyderabad at 13,000 and Chennai at 9,000. So if you're in Bombay, you're in Bombay. and make the best of it. So the consumer behavior of Bombay, and the most important part is that the growth, the consumer behavior is not in troughs and caves. It's a very secular growth. Secular is a bad word these days, but in terms of, it's a very natural growth. It is not driven by some set of consumers getting a very high income, and then that is why they started buying. Bombay consumer is a very consistent consumer. So there is no fundamental change in the consumer per se of Bombay as we observe, say, 2017, 18, 19 to now. But what has changed? To give just a number, say in first half of 2019, now how do you look at a business, especially like a real estate? It's like a mall. How many people have come to your site and how many people out of them have actually bought? If you take out a Philip Kotler, it's N into M, a simple theory. How many people coming and how many people out of them buying? So if you look at it from that perspective, we had, just an example, 57,000 people coming to our sites, across sites, in first half. In 2019 first half, I'm not comparing 2021 and 21-22 because 3 months were off because of COVID and all that. So apple to apple, that was 47,500. So if you look at it from 47,000, and we have not added many new projects, so it's apple to apple. It's not that we have added new projects and that is why no more number of people have come in. More projects are going to happen in future. So 47,500 to 57,000 is almost a 25% swing. And what has happened to the buying behavior? How many people actually bought? From 6.8%, the net buy post cancellations and all the registrations, it has gone to 8.3%. Now it may look innocuous, 6.8 to 8.3, but if you calculate, it is a 20% swing. So what has happened? Almost a 30% swing in the people who are coming to the site, and almost 20% swing in the people who actually buy. And the result is a 56, 1.3 into 1.2 is 1.56. And that is our growth in the first half over 2019, 55% growth. Now this is the numbers. But what is the qualitative? How they have changed? The biggest change I think that has happened is also reflecting on the way society is changing. I think the biggest thing that has changed is the impact of women as a consumer. Women as a consumer. Now we use parlance, consumer is the queen. 70% of our closing managers are women. You know, how? I've read your blogs, Vishal, where you have mentioned about Bombay being, all the houses being small, smaller, smallest. But it used to happen because in a buying behavior, who is there? There is a buyer, there is an influencer, and in some cases, especially in Gujaratis and Marwadi, there is financer also, Pitaji, Babji. Or it could be 3 different, it could be 2, 1, but buyer and influencer is always there. Generally, buyer was a male and influencer being the wife, female. What used to happen earlier? A male coming, talking PSF, size, total price. That was the only discussion. So the sizes kept on coming down. Because he would say, no, not 50, but 45. Not 1 crore, but 95. Not 95, but 90. Not 85. That was the only discussion. It was a mathematical discussion. Not a discussion for a house. But what changed post-COVID? What is the consumer asking? Bigger houses, decks, grounds, amenities. They were always there, but they were never valued. Now, the women is asking these questions.
So amenities are being more valued post-COVID.
More value, and consumer is looking for more value, more amenities. What am I getting apart from price?
How big a factor is brand for a home buyer today? We saw a big rush happen towards branded builders.
That will always be there, irrespective of the industry. Irrespective of the industry, because when you are buying, even if you're buying a glucose biscuit, you will go for a Parle G. You know. So if you are doing a biggest purchase of your life, you will want to, because it is not only what is buying a house. You not only buy for yourself, you buy it to show to the world that you have arrived in life. It is self-esteem. It is not only shelter. It is self-esteem and self-actualization. And that is where brand comes into play.
Chaitanya, we're speaking about brands. We saw a big rise in market share for branded builders from 2017 onwards. Last 2 years, it's sort of plateaued out. It's not risen. It's not fallen too much as well. Do you think brands, in the conventional way that we look at real estate, will continue to have a distinct advantage, or will credible builders who are not brands yet seize the advantage and become branded?
Great question, Vishal. I'll just take it from what Prashant was saying, right? Parle-G, take it Maggi, take Fevicol, Amul. All these are strong brands. Today, when you ask for noodles, you ask for Maggi. That's a synonym for the entire category what you're buying. If it's happening for these categories, real estate, where you're signing the biggest check of your life, how brand cannot be important? The short answer is brand is a great value and has a significant impact on the business what you're running. Now let's understand from a real estate perspective, I largely think there are two drivers why brand becomes important. One, the moment of truth for a buyer is 2 years, 3 years, 4 years away. Now when the moment of truth is so away, how do I ensure that the money what I have signed up is in the safe hands? That's where brand becomes extremely important. And whether you like it or not, the industry is a trust deficit industry. The trust doesn't come naturally in this industry because of multiple factors. Obviously, thanks to RERA, things have started becoming far more transparent and streamlined. But I would genuinely believe that moment we are talking about trust, brand is one of the strongest elements, because that's something which comes to your mind, right? Brand is what? It's not built in a day. It's a regular process where you nurture and manage that brand. So to me, having a brand, building the brand is extremely important. That's the first part. Now, what happens when you build a brand? You're able to sell faster. While I think you talked about data, but if you look at it in a micro, when there's a branded developer, customers wait for it. They are wanting to look at that branded developer and buy there. You help it sell more, sell better, sell faster. You are able to attach a premium to it. Take many micro markets, there are a lot of credible developers, may not be big brands, but it's important that they're able to establish their name there. In that market, they're able to command premium, and that's nothing but a brand. So to me, brand allows you to get a premium, it allows you to sell faster, and more importantly, brand is for the entire ecosystem. Today, a channel partner, when I work with a brand, for him, what is a brand? Will this developer pay my brokerage in time? Will it pay in full? Are my leads secured? Moment I get that confidence, this is a good brand for me, I'll start working for you. Give me 25 paisa less. I'll still work for you because I know my product will sell, I'll get the money. For customer, I think you were talking earlier, right? I think genuinely getting a product of the defined, agreed quality and in time is basic. That's basic, but that's something which sometimes evades this industry. So to me, for a customer, when a moment of truth is away, it's extremely important that I'm able to trust that builder, that this is what is going to be. Similarly applies to the vendors and all. So that's, and the last thing you asked about the credible developers who have done a smaller scale business, not big brand. To me, the story is there. The problem is not getting communicated out in the market. What they need to really focus is, how do I declutter myself, put a story and communicate that effectively? That's what I would say.
Fair point. So credible players, they're on a strong footing, but they need to get the messaging right. Kaizad, we've been speaking about brands. You're the right person to discuss this. In an earlier session, I remarked that the only one builder who's really cultivated a brand is Rustomjee. Is there a big difference you have seen in how customers view Rustomjee today versus what they did a decade ago?
So, first of all, I'd like to thank यहाँ पर सब लोग जो भी बैठे हुए हैं. I want to salute and thank you very much for coming here. अगले हफ्ते में no seriously, genuinely, देखो बॉम्बे में सब लोग busy रहते हैं, but you people have taken the time out and come here to listen to some new knowledge. भगवद गीता में सब लोग अभी आपको अगले हफ्ते से बोलता ना कौन सी पूजा पे बुलाते हैं? In Diwali you all call for puja ना? Lakshmi puja. But if you read the Bhagavad Gita, I've been told that सरस्वती की पूजा पहले होती है और लक्ष्मी की पूजा बाद में होती है. एंड इट इज ऑल्सो रिटन इन द स्क्रिप्चर्स में लिखा है कि जो लक्ष्मी की पूजा अपना सरस्वती की पूजा विच इज नॉलेज, जो सब इन लोग सब बांट रहे हैं, जो सरस्वती की पूजा करेगा उसको लक्ष्मी खुद ही भाग के आएगी. सो कॉन्ग्रेचुलेशंस टू यू फॉर डूइंग सरस्वती पूजा इन एडवांस. दैट्स इट. सो विशाल साहब का क्वेश्चन क्या था कि कंज्यूमर्स का जो परसेप्शन, अभी रुस्तम जी 26th ईयर में है, are they seeing Rustomjee differently before and are they seeing differently today? Well, that's a very powerful question and I would like to, since मैं 18 years से मैं Rustomjee में जुड़ा हुआ हूँ, I would like to say to you that 1997 में जब भी बमन सर, हमारे जो बमन साहब जो starting में, he used to work, there were 3 or 4 people only in the company, जो चंद्रेश साहब है, बमन सर थे, गीता जी, 4-5 जन थे, एक टेबल थी वहाँ पर. बमन सर has told us in 2-3 forums कि I used to do the presentation. वहाँ पर जो नई फ्लाइट टेक ऑफ हो रही है अभी, तो रुकते जरा उसके लिए. आई फील आई एम एट एयरपोर्ट. सो मिस्टर बमन ईरानी हिमसेल्फ वुड बी सिटिंग एट द काउंटर एंड ही वुड टेक द कस्टमर पूरा, ये देखो सर ये एंट्री है, ये आपका लिविंग रूम है, ये आपका बेडरूम है, ये आपका टॉयलेट है, ये आपका बालकनी है, ये आपका, ही हिमसेल्फ. एंड बमन सर ऑलवेज सेज कि हम, आई यूज्ड टू टॉक इन सच अ वे कि कस्टमर जो विजुअलाइज करता था, उस टाइम पे वीआर सीआर कुछ भी, सीआर कुछ नहीं था, नो स्क्रीन्स, नो डिजिटल, योर वर्ड्स आर ऑल यू हैड एंड दैट ब्रोशर इज ऑल यू हैड. एंड इमीडिएटली customer would connect with what Mr. Boman Irani, our first salesperson of Rustomjee, would say, and the trust would be built. That same tradition, Vishal Saab, has been continuing today, and I don't think there is any dilution in that factor of treating our customers with respect. Actually, we are, I would say, proud that we are one of the rare real estate organizations, not only in India but in the world, who have a separate mission statement for sales. I'll be happy to pass it on to whoever you want. In that mission statement, it is written, and I show it to maximum customers possible. We are not interested, हमको सेल करने में इंटरेस्ट ही नहीं, हम कस्टमर को सीधा बोल देते हैं. We are interested in keeping your best interest at heart. आपका फायदा क्या है, आपका वैल्यू क्या है. I have, my sales people have told customers, sir, this is not the right, madam, this is not the right product for you. How many sales people, how many brokers in India के हिम्मत होगी वो कस्टमर को, सामने वाले को बोलने का कि भाई ये सर ये आपके लिए नहीं है, ये मैं नहीं कर सकता हूँ आपको, ये बंदा जो है ज़ैपकी का साहब, वो वेरी स्मार्ट एंड वेरी बोल्ड गाय, यू प्लीज गो टू हिम. एक्चुअली आई हैड वन कस्टमर, आई रिमेंबर, उसको बड़ी बालकनी मांगती थी थाना में. आई हैड नो बालकनी, मेरे पास थी नहीं. अच्छा मैडम मेरे पास बालकनी नहीं है, पर आई नो वन डेवलपर हु हैज गॉट अ बालकनी. आई थिंक इट वाज, आई फॉरगॉट द नेम, इट वाज अराउंड 10 years बैक. आई इवन हैव ड्राइवर एंड कार, आप बैठेंगे तो मैं अभी भिजवा देता हूँ. शी सेड हाँ बेटा भेजो. तो आई कॉल्ड द ड्राइवर, आई सेड मैडम को उधर वो व्हाटएवर दैट डेवलपर्स नेम आई फॉरगॉट, आई वुड हैव सेड टू यू इफ आई रिमेंबर. मैंने भेज दिया. मैं वो सेल्स वाले को मैं पहचानता था. आई सेड भाई मैं मेरा एक कस्टमर को भेज रहा हूँ, उसको बालकनी चाहिए, टेक गुड केयर ऑफ दिस कस्टमर. पीपल थॉट पागल हो गया, बाबा पागल हो गया, कस्टमर को दूसरा किधर भेजता है, ऐसा कोई होता है क्या? हु डज दैट? यू विल नॉट बिलीव विशाल जी, आफ्टर 1.5 months दैट कस्टमर केम बैक एंड बॉट विथ अस ओनली. या and like this we have many instances. So that trust, and I think there is no dilution, it will only keep. See, values don't, core values don't change over time. That is the significance.
But then do core values get known? Core values, you had the same values in 2010. It's 2022. Yeah. That time your core values are known by a smaller audience. Now it's known by a bigger audience. Has that changed the way, in your view, that sales happen because of that change in branding?
तो पहले, गुड पॉइंट, तो पहले कम लोगों को पता था कि रुस्तम जी इज ट्रस्टवर्दी और ट्रांसपेरेंट डेवलपर जो है. अभी बिकॉज ऑफ द यू नो पीपल लाइक मिस्टर संगीत कुमार एंड ऑल, अभी वीडियो लेके घूमते रहता है. संगीत जी, आई समटाइम्स वंडर वेयर यू आर रोमिंग अराउंड विद वीडियो कैमरा इन योर हाउस ऑल्सो एंड टेकिंग यू नो बाइट्स फ्रॉम योर वाइफ. अच्छा डार्लिंग बताओ आज कैसा मौसम, क्या ख्याल है आपका? संगीत जी आप इधर है? हाय नमस्ते. So you know, we thank people like him and people like Vishal ji who blog about, you know, and we have, I just met one more person, Mr. Anthony, he is teaching MBA in real estate. So because of this knowledge is spreading to more people. I will tell you one more example. This lady, she met me in one event. He's saying, "Beta, तुम पर्सी चौधरी है क्या?" I said, "नहीं मैडम, मैं काश, I hope I was Percy Chaudhary. Percy is Baman's younger brother, for those who don't know. I said, I wish I was Percy Chaudhary, but I'm not. I'm Kaizad Hateria. बताओ क्या काम है? बोलता पर्सी को मेरा सलाम बोलो. I said, ठीक है मैडम, किस चीज़ के लिए सलाम बोलने का? तो she told me कि we had given 40 lakhs to Rustomjee, 40 lakh हम लोग ने टोकन अमाउंट दिया था. ये अपना ओरियाना करके बिल्डिंग है. After that, something happened in the family, medical emergencies. I think somebody got cancer or something, and they wanted a lot of amount, 20-25 lakhs for the treatment and all. तो उसने हस्बैंड को बोला, रुस्तम जी को बोलो पैसा टोकन रिटर्न वापस करने को, 40 लाख जो भी था वापस करने को. और हस्बैंड स्टार्टेड लाफिंग. ही सेइंग ऐसा होगा ही नहीं, ये डेवलपर लोग कभी तुमने सुना है कि कभी पैसा वापस करता है. शी सेइंग नहीं नहीं ऐसा हार मत जाओ, तुम नहीं चाहता है तो मैं जाऊंगा. सो शी केम एंड मेट पर्सी एट दैट टाइम, एंड पर्सी विदाउट अ ब्लिंक ऑफ एन आई विद इन अ फ्यू डेज. Normally refunds take 3-4 months. This was given in 1 week. 40 lakhs check काट के उसके घर पे भेज दिया हम लोग ने. So this is the love, this is the respect we have for the human connection, for the human emotion.
Shubhankar, you represent a company that built its brand on the back of data. Now you're moving to transaction, or you moved to transaction. In your experience, in a customer journey, how important has been historical price data of a project which is looking to buy? Are they looking at it closely, or it's still that culture, broker ने ये बोला, ये rate था, अभी यही rate होगा?
So, 2 years back, I think around, just around when COVID started, COVID hadn't fully kicked in. So, वो जो, what do you call, the deluge, the flood of customers coming and buying after COVID, वो शुरू नहीं हुआ था, right? Keeping that in mind, what we did is we built technology to pull registration data, ठीक है, from IGR across some states, right? 5-6 cities. अभी क्या है, contrary to what the world thinks about India, it's actually a very transparent country. बहुत लोगों के मन में होता है, right? Especially who's sitting on the outside, कि India है, real estate है, murky है, dirty है, opaque है, ये है, वो है, right? But the fact of the matter is that the government has actually made registration data public for several years, right? For a long time it was not digitized, so it was cumbersome. Okay, customers can actually had to go to the SRO, application, payment, ये वो निकालो, etc., etc. All that was available to the customer. ठीक है, लोग कर सकते थे, but as states started getting digitized, it started becoming easier for people to access, relatively speaking. Because उसमें भी है थोड़ा झंझट होता है, but then we came up with a technology कि यार अगर public data है ही, it's available, why don't we make it very easily, at a couple of clicks available to the customer, because it is a clear need, right? Regardless of Zapkey, regardless of Government of India, regardless of IGR, जब कोई purchase sale करना हो, purchase करना हो, दोनों, right? Price is everything. The guy who's selling doesn't want to leave money on the table. The guy who's buying saying, yaar, jitna matlab, I don't want to get gypped. Now in the traditional way, kaka, mama, chacha, watchman, doodh wala, everybody would come to your rescue saying, हाँ मैंने सुना है, इतने में गया, छठा माला ये वो सब, and people would try and get as many data points, get ultra confused, and then take some sort of decision, because there was no way who's to be trusted. Maybe mama is the closest, so you'll trust him, right? But I'd say about a decade now since we've been pulling this information out from IGR. Look, the point is that education, कि ये हो रहा था government का, but people did not know कि ऐसा कुछ कर सकते हैं, right? So they still relied on hearsay. But जैसे ही हमने data निकालना शुरू किया and we started advertising the fact that registration data is now available. देखिए आप जो relative से पूछ रहे हो, watchman से पूछ रहे हो, सीधा आके आप देखो आपकी building में last transaction कितने में हुई, etc. तसल्ली कर लो आप, right? Because the point is people want a hard stop, people want a benchmark के ये है, this is the price, now I can make my decision around this. They don't know what is that center in which to pivot their expectation, right? They always relied on hearsay. तो वो तो होता ही आ रहा है, but since this registration data has come about and we made it easily available, almost commoditized the whole thing, we've seen our user base from which hardly nothing, right? Couple of 100 people a month pre-COVID to today a few lakhs a month, right? Coming because clear need, people know, right? Now the point is this, that yes, so the answer to your question is yes, okay, people are definitely using this data to kind of create some sort of mental math, some sort of benchmark in their heads, ke ye wala isme gaya, etc., because you also know that a lot of this registration data unfortunately has to be taken with a pinch of salt once in a way, if you know what I'm trying to say about this, right? But now the second problem around this is this, that अब लोगों को तसल्ली हो गई है, sellers and buyers know कि यार ये जो मैं बेचना चाहता हूँ या खरीदना चाहता हूँ 1 करोड़ का है, right, more or less. Now comes next level कि after knowing that 1 crore, seller wants, वो 1 करोड़ का है, मेरे को 1 करोड़ 10 लाख चाहिए. क्यों? पूछो मत, because मैं seller हूँ. Buyer बोलता है हाँ 1 करोड़ का है, मेरे को 90 लाख देने हैं, right? That is a level 2 of a problem that needs to be addressed now, right? So point is, everybody now has that base level data. It has become a level playing field. But for the market to become more efficient, right? कि ये डेटा को फायदा भी होना चाहिए ट्रांजैक्शन डील मेकिंग में ना, ऐसा नहीं कि बस पीपल आर टेकिंग दैट डेटा एंड स्टिल कंटिन्यूइंग टू बिहेव द वे दे वांट टू, राइट? सो आई थिंक अ नेक्स्ट लेवल ऑफ, सो वी लुक एट इट एज अ एजुकेशन प्रोसेस कि ये ब्रिंगिंग डेटा वाज वर्जन 1.0, डेटा ले आए, पीपल आर लेस जिटरी, लेस नर्वस, राइट, अबाउट दिस होल थिंग. मेरे को पता है प्राइस कितना है. नाउ नेक्स्ट लेवल टू डू अ ट्रांजैक्शन विल रिक्वायर अ नेक्स्ट वेव ऑफ education. मतलब I'll give you a small example before I hand it back to you. And we were discussing this internally with our team only, right? The reseller. I'm not talking about developer construction. The reseller, right? Like I said, classic example. Majority of the resellers will say, हाँ 1 करोड़ का माल है तो मेरे को I want 1.1 lakhs for my 1.1 crore for my home, right? But then the question of time value of money, right? वो बोलेगा 1.1 crore. अभी कौन सा बायर इज गोइंग टू कम एंड बायर भी तो Zapkey देखता है, राइट? वो उसको भी पता है 1 करोड़ का है, व्हाई विल ही कम एंड बाय 1.1 करोड़, राइट? तो वो दैट ही वोंट बी एबल टू सेल इट ओवरनाइट. ही मे से आई विल वेट फॉर 1 year, आई विल वेट फॉर 2 years, बट बेचूंगा तो 1.1 करोड़ में. बट टाइम वैल्यू ऑफ मनी, आप उसके ऊपर होम लोन हो, उसके ऊपर ज़्यादा पैसा दे रहे हो, राइट? दैट नेक्स्ट लेवल इज समथिंग नाउ वी नीड टू स्टार्ट वर्किंग ऑन एज वेल टू टेक, या.
So information is there, but the nuances of the numbers, because that's what it eventually boils down to, right? I'm okay waiting 2 years longer to get 7-8 lakhs when the opportunity cost of capital allows me to make more. Prashant, one of the complaints about real estate is that you operate on what I call Bachna Hai Hasino syndrome. Bachna Hai Hasino syndrome of the movie, where you are Ranbir Kapoor, the audience, the customer are the actresses, you chase them, you chase them. The moment you get them, you ignore them. So the difference between the time you treat a customer till the booking stage and after that, what happens? This is a problem I've noticed across the industry, with few exceptions. Do you think that's a trend we will see change over the next 3 to 5 years?
Vishal, I think that trends have changed. Chaitanya talked about brand. No brand can survive if it is not able to treat its existing consumers right. Because how does a brand does not get built only by hoardings or by newspaper ads. It is the word of mouth. In real estate, that plays a very, very critical role. And also, what percentage of your sales come from your existing consumers? Show us how is your brand growing. So these are a lot of parameters. And over the years, as far as Lodha is concerned, we have evolved that we do a huge kind of a test, that where do we stand in terms of our brand strength across the categories. First of all, the employees itself, our vendors, our existing buyers, across the system, the channel partners, on various parameters, how do they treat us? What is the score? I can tell you, when we did the first test in 2018, in most of the parameters, our score was negative, not even positive, not even 0. And that set us thinking, so you are very right. So that set us thinking that we cannot continue like this. If we get a negative score from channel partners, we get a negative score from our existing buyers, negative score from our vendors. We did a recent score. We have reached on a scale of 1 to 10, 4.2 on consumers, 5.6 on channel partners, 3.6 on vendors, and so there's still a long way to go. But from negative -6 to plus 3.6 plus 4.2. Now we have got a very regular system. For example, we have a special desk at the channel partner, at our customer care, which caters only to premium and luxury segment because they have their different demands. A different set of consumers because what are their needs? And depending on those needs, you take care of them. And also what happens is that 30% of our business comes from ready to move in sales. That people buy it and get the keys. So what kind of an experience they get, so that time difference is only a month or 2 months. That is very critical. We ensure that if it is promised that if you take the key, in 2 months you will get the best quality house that you envisage, they get it. And that is why in ready to move in, our consumer score has almost moved up to 7.4. It is, and you know, the biggest challenge is what you sell now. And you have to offer it in 3 years' time. That is where the lag is the highest. And that is where you're very right. What we are learning is keep sending those pictures to the consumers that this is the stage of your construction. That itself takes away a lot of angst. What happens is you do not send them any picture, you just send them a demand note. Why should I pay it? They said, yeah, okay. It's a 20th story, but how do I know it's a 20th story? You have asked for the, how do I know that? I'm not going to go again and again and say 20% of our business comes from NRI and outstation. They are not going to come and check with us. So that is what we learned over the experience when we did the research. How do I know it's 20th stories done? So we are learning over the time and we are evolving. There's a long way to go because the latest consumer score is only 4.2 on a scale of 10. But I'm reasonably confident that by 2024, we will reach at least 6.5 to 7.
Okay. I'm personally delighted to see you highlighted that you were negative earlier and now you have shown a change and a lot more distance to cover. Kaizad, I'll take it from this point that Prashant mentioned. I understand that there are different segments in real estate according to the scale, but even according to the type of customer they target. Are you seeing a change at the industry level in how they deal with the customer from the time he is booked till the time he is given possession? Or like you said, between that time, the only thing the CRM does, sir, demand letter. Are you seeing a change happen? And if so, in which segments?
Well, before I answer your question, if I may have the luxury of congratulating you, sir. I had been to Park, आपका जो हमारे ground के बाजू में है, and one of my friends had bought a 2 BHK on the 72nd floor, and उसका कुछ दरवाजा में कुछ problem था, and you people have an app. Lodha has got this app, and my friend opened the app, and he put his complaint. Within 15 minutes, some guy came at the door. I was like, wow. So I'm sure your score must be more than 4.2 if you take a recent study again, and I applaud and salute your efforts. Yeah. Yeah.
The consumer expectations are very high. And we have to keep matching ourselves because what we thought was enough 3 years back is not enough now. The consumer is also evolving. The consumer is also evolving. So what you're talking about, sir, is only hygiene. That must be done. The key is how do you delight the consumer? I think we will reach 7. So that's why I'm saying that if we reach 7, we have reached a stage where consumer is extremely happy. And if we reach 9, then he's delighted. And that is the level to which we have to reach.
Correct. So this is a good positive change for all of us. If the #1 developer in India is, being so positive, I think we all should follow and take inspiration and learning from you. Thank you very much. So Vishal Saab, coming to your question, is that what is changing in this field after
Which are the segments? Which are the segments that are changing? Are the bottom rung behaving the same way? Are the middle rung behaving the same way? And if the change is coming, is it only coming from the top rung? Like you mentioned, his score.
No.
Is it just that outlier, or are we seeing that change happen across the board?
Well, I would say even if there is a change, itna significant change nahi hai. As much as what, like he said, the needs, customer का जो need है बहुत अभी change हो रहा है. 1-1 करोड़ पहले जमाने में कोई बोलेगा 20 साल पहले 1 करोड़ आप करोड़पति हो, पाँव छुएगा तुम्हारा, सो समझता कि छोटा अंबानी है करके अपन, But today 1 crore is what? अरे यार खाली 1 करोड़ है. अरे like people are talking of 1 crore जैसे चिल्लर लेके घूमते पॉकेट के अंदर इन लोग. So that value of money has first gone down. Customer needs have become increased, like Prashant Saab said, कि कितना amenities मांग रहे, ये मांग रहे, वो मांग रहे, and expectations have gone up. So I think it will be, no developer will have 100% score because everybody, there will always be somebody who will feel यार मेरे लिए ठीक नहीं, Lamborghini में उन लोग को mistake निकालेगा उन लोग, right? But yes, the awareness, before the change comes, the awareness has to come, Vishal Saab. I would say the change has not happened drastically, but that ripples of awareness has increased, and now people are realizing, like even Mr. Chaitanya said, Zapkey. By the way, before I want to take a short break to congratulate this man. You have balls of steel, Tata Steel. I'm telling you, I read your article 2 days back, and I was thinking, I want to salute this man. Do you know what this man has done, Zapkey guy? He has promised people, कि यार, I will give you 1 lakh token amount on your old flat. If I don't get you another flat, मैं token आपका गायब. मतलब आप मेरे से मतलब दिवाली गिफ्ट में एडवांस में रख लो आप. I mean, I salute. You have to have guts of a bull. I don't know what food you eat, what diet you eat. Please share the diet chart with us later on.
You're scaring me now. What have I done?
डर के आगे जीते. कितना risky. काफी channel partners. How many channel partners in this room? Can you raise your hands? Channel partners कितने हैं यहाँ पर? अरे बाकी सब developer है क्या? खाली 2 channel partner है? हाँ? Only 3. So whoever, I would say the rest of your entrepreneurs. See, please learn from people like these amazing personalities out here. I keep learning from these people the kind of guts, the kind of innovation, and how they are willing to put something at stake to get bigger returns. Similarly, sir, coming to your question, we are not doing enough. The answer is no, we are not, but awareness is increasing. And like Mr. Chaitanya said, people are now realizing that brand अच्छा बनाएंगे, तो premium भी charge कर सकेगा, आपका turnaround time भी छोटा रहेगा, business भी बढ़ेगा, सब कुछ अच्छा ही होगा. So one of the examples I'll give you is what Rustomjee does is, in a year, हमारा जो marketing budget है ना, उसमें से we keep aside 1.5 crore rupees just for events. मतलब वो customer may not have taken possession of the house, but we keep engaging the customer for the various events. And like he said, regularly we keep sending the photographs. We even have a separate team with a customer service loyalty team to service the customer and be in touch with the customer. उसका happy birthday, उसका anniversary है, उसके बच्चे को football अच्छा लगता है, तो some kind of a match for that. So always some reason for engaging. We took a recent survey of the customers and we found a lot of dog lovers are there in one community of ours in Seasons. तो हम लोग ने dog park वहाँ पर पहले नहीं था brochure के अंदर, पर हमने वो जगह बना के वो dog park बना दिया. So this kind of sensitivity towards customers' needs, even when the project is ongoing, is increasing, but far way to go. Far way to go. We have a lot to do. You have any suggestions to give us?
That thing, I think off camera. Chaitanya, you've had 2 developers who have acknowledged.
Vishal, sorry to interject on this. The key is when you're dealing with consumers and once they're part of you, it just goes beyond house. House is only an entity. The relationship goes beyond that. If you are able to go beyond that, that is when the connect happens. I'll give you one example, and this idea came from a management trainee who joined us from ISB. We have 57,000 existing customers with us. And when we did the analysis, we realized that there are 3,165 doctors staying with us. 3,165. So what we did was on 1st of April, Doctors' Day, to all the doctors, we spent a special note. It was, thank you very much for your contribution to society, and only a small gift hamper for what you're doing to the society. You cannot believe the kind of goodwill that we got from that community. It is unbelievable. And we actually did not do it for any business. But frankly saying, we launched a commercial property where there was a doctor's enclave. All the doctor's enclave were bought by existing consumers itself. Every unit. And we actually had not even thought about it. So the point is, how do you go beyond that connect? How do you go beyond that connect? My wife at that, she's a doctor, and my wife at that time was working in Gurgaon. She's the head of department. And she called me, says, Prashant, there is a hamper we sent it even to NRI doctors. One of our largest, buyers is Dr. Gupta, who has bought, he's staying in Long Island in New York. He called me from Long Island, New York, that Prashant, what is this? I've got a hamper from Lodha on a doctor's day. I've been staying in US for 20 years, nobody has ever given me a hamper and I get it from Lodha. And he said, I explained it, and in America, 1% Indians, but 6% of the wealth. And the major reason is the doctors. There is an American Association of Physicians of Indian Origin, API. 6% of US doctors are Indians. 6%. And he said, I circulated that note to every association, API guy, this is what Lodha has done. Look at the kind of brand, look at the kind of ground will that has developed. A small experience. So the key is, it has to go beyond beyond the housing, it is how do you connect with, how do you make them as a part of the family?
Chaitanya, good improvements being done. We'll have to establish whether it's happening at the top end or across the board. In your view, what is the one part of customer engagement strategy that needs a lot of improvement in the industry according to you, and why?
I think, first of all, let me congratulate the industry. There has been a significant shift in the last 3 to 4 years, the way they've been looking at the customer. The last decade used to be purely a seller's market. Now, genuinely, there's been some respect coming to the customers, I would say. And I'm very happy what Prashant said, right? There's a baseline he's establishing. Unless you measure it, you cannot improve it. So that's the first great step what has been being talked about. Now, what the one thing I want the developers to think and change is their mindset. Customer is a customer lifetime value and not a transaction. So you talked about, and even Kaizad talked about that, the great experience till the time I'm booking the flat with you. What happens when I book the flat? Experience drops. He talked about in terms of how you're engaging with them. The point is, we are in a generation where most of the buyers are like, earlier days, Mahabharata used to come every Sunday to Sunday. You used to wait. It's a generation of instant gratification. You do a binge watching. You can't wait. Today, to get a receipt of your payment, it takes days. Today, when you drop a lead, many a times, maybe a lot of developers do it, but there's still a lot of developers who tend to even acknowledge that. Even if somebody drops a lead, getting a call back in a stipulated time itself is a dream for them. So how do you kind of first start thinking customer on the forefront? So I'm talking about the mindset is to shift. It has shown signs to improve, but as both of them said, it's a long way to go. So once you are able to see that the entire buying journey, which has evolved significantly, it is omni-channel experience what a customer is demanding. Unless we are able to drive that omni-channel strategy, we will not be able to succeed. Right from awareness to possession to post-possession to referral loyalty. Answer of why was given by Prashant, right? I think if word of mouth is the lowest cost of acquisition for the customer and the largest conversion, developers talk about 5 to 25% of referral loyalty. That's the biggest thing. And it doesn't take much, to be honest. I think it's only about the mindset, I would say, is what we need to kind of shift towards doing that.
Shubhankar, how big a game changer has been the rise and explosion in social media in changing the entire customer acquisition game, both on the positive as well as the risks it involves once you're in that domain?
So I think most answers to a lot of questions today and for some time will have a common pivotal point, which is COVID. It was so big and impactful, right, in terms of change, like a paradigm shift in the way the world lives, right? Things just changed overnight. Things that we had dreamt of being maybe a decade in the future or at least 7-8 years in the future, in a matter of months, small things, right? India was at the cusp of, I'll say, e-commerce. Let's take e-commerce as an example, right? We were still not there pre-COVID, while e-commerce was on a massive growth trajectory and all of that. We were still not there as a nation where we would completely trust buying online shopping, right? Buying any kind of product. I mean, think many years back for people like you and I never imagined buying clothes online, right? I wanted to touch, I wanted to try. Cut to today, I'm very comfortable doing it, right? I think that shift has happened. But to other products, right? And now we're talking about food and, literally, I would say everything except, to a large extent, homes can be bought online, right? But for India, the projection was that it will still take a fair few years for us to get there as a society where the percentage of our population can be compared to a developed nation that shops online. But that number with COVID for the world and for India just jumped overnight, right? Because we were left with no choice. We were at home. We needed things. The only option we had was that, right? And with that came social media. Now, because our outdoor, physical, touch, feel, sensory experiences were limited by lockdowns, what was our only access to discovering products? Social media, right? Our screen time, our phones, our TVs, our laptops, we were more and more living on those. And that, today, if you ask me, has become a large part of our lives, much larger than it was pre-COVID. Yes, we are all out now. We are not wearing masks here. But if you think about it, I think the average time we spend on the internet is much higher than it was pre-COVID. So, and the only way to discover new things, new products was social media. So, without question, social media as a media, to discover things like, everyday items and even homes, right? Just changed overnight. So there is absolutely no question of the impact that it has had on our lives from a discovery perspective. You had a follow-up question, right, to that?
In terms of the downside, so there are many positives of social media, but there are downsides. The traditional ecosystem was a controlled environment. You could control the narrative. And real estate largely has pushed a narrative where, irrespective of the moment, irrespective of the month, year, it's always the best time to buy a house. Okay? Since the time I've grown up, I read that headline, best time to buy a house. It's obviously not true, but social media has the ability to bust that myth.
Yeah.
How should the industry counter social media realities?
Great question. I think actually it's a difficult question to answer because honestly I haven't thought about it from that perspective, right? And you're right, social media is a platform, it's a democratized platform where there is so much more freedom. You can't just blindly market things and expect no sort of any kind of repercussions. I think the biggest impact that social media has had is it has kept sort of burgeoning effects of marketing, blindly marketing, without really expecting any sort of retaliation, feedback, etc., in check, right? Because now people are aware. There are platforms like Twitter, for example, where even you have your influencers, such as yourselves, right, who have a certain amount of following, right? I mean, think back a few years back when social media wasn't as big a platform as it is today. It would have been a little hard for Vishal Bhargava to kind of spread his message to a few thousand or lakhs of people who kind of have that inherent trust in what he says, right? But today, the social media has provided that platform where what you call micro-influencers or influencers, a lot of people like you and I, can be heard by a large audience enough to make an impact and an effect on the outcome of a product, right? So my answer to your question is that what it has done, and it has created sort of a check on things that were unbridled before in terms of what you can say and what you can do and what you can communicate to the customer base as a whole.
Prashant, real estate cycles, like many other cycles, now they tend to get shorter, but in that short period, they tend to be intense. So we don't have those 7-year cycles, 5-year cycles, which are regularly bandied about. Because they are short, adaptation needs to be nimble. How should the industry work on their strategy when the markets are hot and when they're weak? Because the market can change very quickly.
Vishal, I may have a disconnect there because we are yet to see whether the cycle is short or not. It's only a 2-year cycle till now. Hopefully, the onus is on us. Frankly saying, yes, there was a bull cycle. Unfortunately, I was a buyer at that time. And we saw what happened that time. It was an unbridled growth where there was no control and all kind of practices happened which should not have happened. if we want to sustain this growth, even if not at this extent, but a stable growth, the onus is on us. The onus is keep the consumer in your center. Everything else, if you are able to ensure that you are able to satisfy her and take care of her interests, then you can sustain this cycle. Don't overpromise. Don't commit what you cannot do. Remain steadfast to what you are doing. You don't have to be a James Bond to try a new thing every day. There has to be consistency. It has to be, and most important when you talk about a consistent growth in prices. Small growth, but definitely a growth. If your wage, a 60 to 70% of your wage growth is must. Say for example, if the average wage growth is 10%, then 6 to 7% increase is must. Because most of the consumers, they put their life savings and maximum investment into it. For them, the worst thing is to see the prices coming down. If they see a consistent price increase, then your earlier question, why the time to buy now? Because after 6 months or 3 months, the price will go by 3%. Like say, for example, we have tried to bring in some structure into it, that we take price increase twice. Once on April 1 and once the day after Dhanteras. So 26th October, we will release a new price sheet with 3% price increase all over the place. And 1st April, another 4% increase. So that everybody, the whole idea is to bring a structure and discipline to whatever you're doing. So if we maintain that, we can prolong that cycle to growth. In terms of nimbleness, keep understanding the consumer. 3 years back, 70% of the consumers and 80% of the buy in affordable segment was 1 BHK. Today it has reduced to 20%. No, if you do not, so all our projects are 2 BHK now, minimum 2 BHK, we're not even making 1 BHK. Because if you continue making 1 BHK, you will not sell. And at least the trend we believe will continue for next 2 to 3 years. Earlier, if you used to have decks and balconies, very good, he did not make it because nobody was buying it. It was like, it was stranded for 10 years. Garden units, the balconies, the decks, people wanted it, but wanted it for free. They never wanted to pay for it. Now if you introduce a deck, it is the best one to sell out. So how do you, are you understanding what consumer is saying? Now he's ready to pay an extra amount for the deck. No, frankly saying, even in our, I remember, I was sitting with design and we were preparing this and he says, Prashant, if you go beyond this, the price will go beyond that. So it's a 600 square feet. So how can we give deck? And again, give me 40 square feet. Give me that much where the husband and wife can have a tea, fight out there, take out all their grievances, but give me a 40 square feet deck at least, even in a 600 square feet house. We introduced it. We introduced 2 units, one without deck, one.
There's multiple reasons. One is, see, in a fast-changing world with the modern buyer, in a 3-year, the life events also change, which also warrants a different space and also gives a shock to people. Many a times when you have a show flat, probably you'll have one configuration, probably the best configuration, the biggest configuration. It takes away those studio apartment or mini 1 BHK or 1.5 BHK, and that becomes a surprise. So I think, and typically I also believe that the first time home buyers that is the biggest challenge. Because for them to realize the size of the space from that perspective also becomes a challenge. Because the sizes of the homes have started shrinking from that perspective. And obviously I've read that article from yours at 300 to 225. So you never find that, that people probably in slums may have a bigger houses. So that's a tricky challenge, owning a house, maintaining within a budget, and how do I visualize what I would really want? I think that's the puzzle which everybody needs to solve. And I think that's where probably the authenticity of a developer matters a lot. That's where that's where people will stay. What Prashant talked about, and even I talked about 5 to 20% of referral to loyalty sales. If you end up talking to a customer and selling a dream, which essentially will bust for them, they will not become a loyal customer and they will never become an advocate for you. So I think that balancing art, that being transparent and putting that balance between the configuration, size and budget is something which need to look at. And the customer research is of paramount importance. We have seen that many small houses or many big houses, in many of the projects have remained unsold. So, yeah.
Customer research, very important. Kaizad, just to push this question a bit deeper, because I think that's the big trend I'm seeing even over here. Reza Kabul, the architect, once told me that customers buy on the basis of plans, these small homes. There's that excitement then, because you're getting it at a low ticket size. But reality strikes you the moment you get the apartment. As a person who's not doing those sort of products, but if you were in the shoes of someone who was doing it, how would you handle that type of a sale? If you were in the shoes of a developer who was to tell customers that this is a small home, but it has a good layout. Layout matters more than many things. How would you handle that customer acquisition for that segment?
ऐसे विशाल साहब का क्वेश्चन क्या है कि कस्टमर को जो शौक लगता है, जो खाली प्लान देख के लेना अलग बात होती है, और एक्चुअली जब ही वेरी गुड पॉइंट चैतन्य, व्हेन दे एक्चुअली एंटर, अरे ये तो इतना साला कबूतर खाना छोटा हो गया, क्या हो गया, इट्स लाइक अ डिफरेंट थिंग, प्लान पे देखना और एक्चुअल में देखना. एंड 3 years के बाद, 3 साल के बाद आप ले रहे हो तो आपका एस्पिरेशन चेंज हो गया, आपका मे बी योर ड्रीम्स हैव बिकम बिगर, मे बी मोर फैमिली इज एडेड, सडनली दैट सेम होम विच वाज परफेक्ट इन 2000 इट्स नॉट परफेक्ट इन 2023. हाउ डू यू हैंडल दैट? So I think sensitizing, it's a very deep and very beautiful question. Sensitizing, पहले तो देखो रुस्तम जी में एक, I'm sure a lot of you people must be also following that. रुस्तम जी में एक rule है, before we go for any home or design any home, we have group discussion with lot of the customers, existing customers, जो हमारे जो TG target audience है, so we have a separate agency, marketing agency to do this work. टारगेट ऑडियंस कौन है, उसका इनकम कितना है, सिंगल इनकम, डबल इनकम, मराठी, गुजराती, बावाजी, तो कोई बोला तुमने बावाजी कस्टमर नहीं है तुम लोग के पास, लोधा के पास, तुमने हम लोग को भूल गया. अच्छा, पारसी लोग का हाईएस्ट कन्वर्जन है, छोटा है पण कर. चलो अच्छा, सुकून मिला दिल को सुन के. अभी जिंदा है पारसी लोग. गुड नाइस, गुड टू हियर दैट. सो आई थिंक फर्स्ट इज सेंसिटाइजिंग द कस्टमर अबाउट कि यार ये क्या हो गया. I'll just send in 2 minutes. First is you speak to the customer, like somebody, I think Prashant साहब या आपने बोला था कि don't build what you want, build what customer wants. That's the philosophy we follow. And I think speaking to brokers, speaking to bankers, speaking to investors, हम बहुत सारे audience से बात करके फिर बनाते हैं. And we always keep this in mind, like you said, like Chaitanya said, कि 3 साल के बाद भी उसको ये relevant होना चाहिए home. So I think somewhere we do this and it reduces the shock, and it's not like 100% को shock मिलता है, maybe 10-15 लोगों को मिलता होगा, but then they are always having option of upskilling and going to the next home. मतलब they are not obliged to keep staying in that home for the rest of their lives, na? So I think that's okay.
I think, Vishal, just to add to Seth, the best way to do it is, as a philosophy, we do not launch a product unless we have built a sample flat. So what we do it is, say, as we said that we are jettisoning the 1 BHKs because the demand is very low, we create the sample flat of 3 BHKs, and we simply say that you close this door. If you buy a 2 BHK, this is how it will look like, and this is the 3 BHK. This is exactly, and ever since we have done that, our conversion has gone up by at least, say, if it has overall gone up from 6.8 to 8.1%, I think 0.5% has happened because we took a conscious call that we will not launch a new product even if it gets delayed by 3 months until and unless the sample flat is ready. And that has played the maximum, that takes away a lot of challenges. In fact, people comment on, they simply ask, is the marble going to be absolutely the same? Are the sliding windows going to be the same? What you are presenting? I said, be assured, this is what we are going to present. And of course, then the onus on us is that every house is of the same quality that we create a sample flat.
Okay. Akarshak, do we have time for audience questions?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Let's take about 3 or 4 questions.
We'll start with Keval sir.
Keval, of course.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I would start with a question which actually is not mine, but when we were promoting this particular panel discussion on the social media, I got 17 questions from customers of varied sectors or varied compartments as such. If you are dividing customers based on their financial standing or age or race or gender as such. So I got 17 different questions. And when we did an analysis of those 17 questions, 80% of the questions were regarding the post-sales journey of the customer. And trust me, it was in a complaining mode rather than a question mode. So to summarize that particular question, I'll say that most of the people who have reacted to our social media campaign on this particular panel discussion have complained about the treatment given to the customers post-sales and before the possession. So can we have some insight on what you guys as leaders into sales and marketing are thinking about changing that perception of the customer?
So basically, he's extending the point of Bachna hai Hasino forward. Till the booking, you chase them. After that, customers chase you. How should the broader industry, you both are doing your own measures. You gave the example of doctors. You gave your thing of interacting with the customer. Yeah, sure, Kaizad.
So, if you can also add along, of course. देखो, I can tell you what Rustomjee is doing. 80% people are complaining ना. तो पहले तो expectation setting, customer का जहाँ जो भी broker लोग हैं, realtors है यहाँ पर, I think setting expectations correct is very important. I met one customer from Australia, Perth, and they have just bought a flat in Borivali, and they are saying, अरे आप हमको सेल करने के बाद भूल तो नहीं जाएंगे, हमने सुना है बहुत बिल्डर लोग देखते नहीं है कस्टमर को. I said, मैडम देखो 18 साल से मैं यहाँ पर हूँ, जब तक मेरा इधर से वो जनाजा जाएगा नहीं तब तक मैं तो रहूँगा यहाँ पर, और मेरे बाद रुस्तम जी में मैं आपको 10 जन का नंबर देके जाऊँगा. हम लोग we think, breathe, eat, live customers happiness, delight. पहले तो it starts, see, customer happiness starts with the attitude. It's an attitude, it's not a department. Department comes later on. So, जो love, customer love है, keeping the customer at the center of all your decisions. I think developers have started realizing that, you know, the brand will bring better results. What Mr. Chaitanya also said. ये change हो रहा है. Okay, Rustomjee as a developer, I can tell you, have started. You can also, sir, take some cues from that if you wish. We have started 5 departments to service the customer after the sale. मतलब, I think we may be the only developer in India and maybe in the world also. You can do research if you want. कि कौन सा डेवलपर ने 5 डिपार्टमेंट स्टार्ट किया है कस्टमर को सेवा करने के लिए सेल के बाद. डिपार्टमेंट नंबर 1 विच इज द क्रेस्ट फैसिलिटी मैनेजमेंट, विच इज द सिस्टर कंसर्न ऑफ गमन ईरानी एंड रुस्तम जी फॉर टेकिंग फैसिलिटी. सो द थॉट प्रोसेस वाज, जैसा एक माँ बाप अपने बच्चे को देखभाल करेगा, तुम कोई भाई को या किसी को देगा, शी मे नॉट डू द सेम, गिव द सेम लव. सो दैट वाज द थॉट प्रोसेस. वी टेक केयर ऑफ आवर ओन चाइल्ड बेटर. Second was the least smart, like how he said he has 20% NRI business. We also have very good amount of NRI business, and even a lot of people want to give on rent, corporates and all. तो उनको help करते हैं least smart. Then we have a separate loyalty and customer relations department, not for वो पैसा collect करना है तो अलग department है. ये अलग department खाली सेवा के लिए है. This is a seva department, or I call it. Customer Devo Bhava. In Rustomjee, I always keep telling, customer is like a Deva. Treat the customer like a God. God, parents and customers. I mean, sorry, customers, God and parents. मैं तो बोला God को last रखो. God को तो देखा नहीं है, पर parents और customers को देखा है ना हमने. I often tell my people, and I often myself also do it. When I eat my dinner, I thank the customers कि ये खाना जो मेरे टेबल पे कस्टमर की खून पसीने की मेहनत से आया. I said, thank you customers, thank you brokers, thank you my Rustomjee team, thank you everybody, thank you to the farmer who has brought this food on my table. So this attitude of gratitude, I think a lot of people we should spread this attitude of the gratitude. So customer को एक अलग type का एक respect देंगे, and things will change. We also have something called a dreams department. A lot of customers say, अरे आपके पास interior designer है क्या नहीं? So we have created our own department called Dreams, who gives on very reasonable and in-house consultancy on the design. And then we have a FinServe, Rustomjee FinServe करके, financial services. A lot of customers don't know कि यार best home loan किधर 5 जन के पास किधर जाएगा वो. One-stop shop for the best rate, honest service, transparency, boss. No ulta-pulta काम. So this is the after-sales amazing 5 departments we have created.
Prashant, you want to say something on this?
I think you are absolutely right when he asked this question, and I think that's a very pertinent question. And as I said earlier, we also realize it. We are not, it is not that we do not acknowledge it. It's a process of learning for us. And as I said, We have improved on that score, but it's a journey. It's a journey. Hopefully, in next 18 odd months, we should come at a certain level where we believe we are happy about it. Because what we want the customer is to be delighted. Now, when a customer has a challenges or complaints, what kind of a complaints he has? I think the biggest challenge is the conversation. No, even if he knows that I am going to get a house 3 years hence, the biggest challenge he faces is what is happening. And there is nobody communicating to us. I think the communication itself takes care of a lot of challenges.
Do you think one of the biggest drawbacks, you said communication, I think that's the most important point. Developers have a habit that when things start going wrong or a project gets stalled, their escape route is, let's stop communication unless home buyers show up at the office. I'm not speaking about the builders on the panel here, but at the broader industry, it's a common trend that we've seen that when things start going wrong, instead of communicating more, builders communicate less. Should that change?
I think things are improved. You see, for example, take how Bombay has evolved. You know, I still remember when I joined this industry in 2016, when I saw the first data, there were 5,269 developers in Bombay. 5,269 registered developers in Bombay. When you see this first half year or last year number, how many developers have actually done a business? 378. Yes. 378 developers have done 90% of the business. So the key is, all those practices came from a certain set because there was such a huge tail. Now the business is consolidated to a certain set of developers who are responsible. But again, the onus is on us. All those 350, I think it will fiddle down to further 200. The onus is on us to ensure that consumer always remain, and not only while purchasing. It is a long journey till, say, what are the concerns? The first concern is whether I'm going to get my house on time. The second is what is happening. The third is when I've got the house, have I got it in the right shape? These are the concerns. So these are the parameters. So do you have the systems and structures in place to take care of everything? And most important, I think, if Keval talked about 70% of the consumer complaints, out of that 70%, 80%, this is 56% of the complaints are about product getting delayed. If you are able to take care of that first, and even if by any reason it gets delayed, talk to the consumer. You tell him the reason. Now in COVID times, if the labor was not available, you could not complete the product on time because labor is not there. Communicate it, tell them, they will understand. I can tell you, Indian consumers are the best consumers in the world. Best consumers. Most tolerant. You communicate it to them, give them the right picture, and just give them what you have promised. So don't overpromise. Don't overpromise. Promise what you can deliver and just do that. Over and above, you will delight.
And that's a great point. Chaitanya, you want to say something?
So I'll obviously completely agree with the Prashant and Kaizad what they said. Being available and accessible is the most important thing. आज की डेट में what Vishal rightly said, कितनी बार हम भाग जाते हैं. Point is, if you are available, if you are accessible, it's a journey, it's a big investment what customer has made. If you make that mindset, that takes you a long way. Small things which some of the developers have already started doing is, आज आप बैंक के लिए आज बैंक में हम कितनी बार जाते हैं? All transactions happen on the platform. Why can't that platform be made for customers? Some developers have done that. Maximum queries अपन मेरा demand का है, मेरा receipt का है. I talked about instant gratification. आपने payment दिया, आपको receipt ही नहीं आती है. पीछे पड़े रहो उसके. अगर आपको आपका statement जानना है, उसके लिए पीछे पड़े रहो. You want to understand the progress of the project. If you understand the delay, the reason, if there's a complaint, uska turnaround time. So all these things, moment you become a face, you are available, accessible, and the good part is technology can solve it for you. So it starts from the mindset, what Prashant rightly said, onus is on us. To change the mindset, what Kaizad talked, create an organization structure which focuses on the customer. Create the systems and processes which can make it happen. Moment you stitch all these together, you only have a happy customer.
Prashant, any other questions that we have?
Journey, I think the endeavor for all of us, at least this group, has to be in three years, we have to become world class in it. We have to become world class. Because if India has to become a $10 trillion economy in next 15 years, it cannot happen without real estate. Real estate has to be 20% of that. That is $3 trillion. $3 trillion means at least 20 crore, 200 million consumers. 200 million consumers. And you have to be world class to cater to them. I'm talking of all India. Out of that, even if you take 10% of that business, 20 million consumers in Bombay in 10 years, or at least 10 million consumers. And say, imagine 100 developers or 150 developers to cater to that 10 million consumers, you need to be world class.
Akarshak, we have some other questions?
Yes. So, if you have any other questions, please raise your hands. We'll come to you. Thank you.
So, sir, consumer behavior in other industries is very easy to gauge. When it comes down to real estate, it's the process, as we were talking about telecalling or the sales managers discussing to the end client. How do we make this process efficient? One is the companies like Zapkey are doing their job. How is that we can make it more efficient, that consumer was or the customer was not there to, you know, just to pass time or just to do the initial Reiki? How do we concretize that this customer was genuine or not? How do we do that?
Actually, frankly saying, consumer understanding in this business is the best and is the easiest. You know, Hindustan Lever or a Coca-Cola or a Procter & Gamble, they don't have a direct consumers at all. They do a consumer research to understand the consumer who is not going to them directly. They're going to a shop and then they're trying to do the analysis. This is the only industry where the consumer is coming directly to you. You can feel him, you can taste, you can see everything of him. He's coming with his wife. What is his wife talking? What is his father talking? What is his mother talking? What is his son, daughter? Everybody is talking about. You have to observe. You have to observe, make notes, and you get the best understanding what he wants, what she wants. And so I think actually understanding a consumer, and of course, how has it translated into, there are two aspects to it. One is the quantitative analysis. What consumers have come, what have they bought? And the second is why and how. One is the quantitative piece that actually the data gives you, and qualitative is by observing. And this is the business where, imagine 50,000, we have got 50,000 transactions recorded with us. What better research that you want to understand a consumer? Why do they want? How do they want? What are their challenges? The biggest challenge in most of the cases is the budget. Your budget is, whatever budget you create, even if you create at 0 rupees, still there will be a 20% issues with the budget. They'll say give something free. So 20% is always, 40% is always the budget. 20% is the traffic in Bombay. Then the product. So ultimately, what are those parameters that decide on what is the consumer actually looking at? So sometimes you have what you want, sometimes you don't have what you want. But actually you know what the consumer actually wants. And if you do the right kind of analysis, you know, it's like psephology. India, 140 crore people, at least 80 crore people vote or 90 crore people vote. They do a research of some 1,000 people and come with almost the right way of which party is winning, psephology. So in consumer research also, if you do the right consumer research of 5,000 odd consumers across the segments, you will get to know more or less. Absolutely you will not be there, but you will know where you stand. And I think that is why in this industry, understanding consumer is actually the easiest. But you have to do it the right way.
So basically the industry needs more Yogendra Yadavs. Akarshak, one more here.
I think we have one more question.
My name is Harish Dhawan. I have two questions. One, as sir said that 20 lakh crore, some business in that $10 trillion economy. So do you think as of now we would be having 189 square foot home wherein Mumbai would be increasing in height? And second, do we have a FSI raise in a city of Mumbai like we have in Singapore, New York?
So you're asking that, do you expect an FSI increase in Mumbai which compares to Singapore and New York, and because of that, we'll see higher buildings. Is that what you're saying?
Is that a possibility in the next 5 to 10 years? That's the second part of the question. And the first part of the question, as sir said, in $10 trillion economy, 20% needs to come from real estate. So are we going to expect smaller houses of 189 square foot, 300, 500, such sort of type in the coming future?
Okay. So I think he's got two questions. If I can summarize it, the first part is because of that size of the real estate market that you said, a very aspirational number, which I hope India meets and real estate fulfills. Does that mean to reach there, we will be seeing these small homes which drive sales and volumes and help the real estate industry grow? And second, will we see FSI levels rise to the levels of Singapore, New York, so that Lodha World Towers, which wanted to be 117, can actually be 117, but somewhere else, if the airports don't come in the way?
No, in terms of, you must understand that, I'll give you one example. My father retired as a scientist. When he retired in 2008, his salary was 16,473 rupees. So imagine, when I started my career in year 2000, my salary was more than him as a management trainee with Cadbury's after my management. So in 10 years, imagine at least an average of 10% wage growth. So please multiply 1.1 into 1.1 into 10 times. So 1.1 into 3 times is 1.1 into 1.21, 1.44. 1.44 into 1.44 is how much? 1760. About, this means that in the current salary will be at least 2.5 to 3 times also. Why do you believe that houses have to be only micro? The wages also will be 2 to 3 times. If say for example, India has today a middle class of how much? Out of 1.4 billion, we have got, remember what happened in China. China was able to bring 600, from 1978, when they started their economic revolution, their economy was lesser than India. Lesser than India. They grew at 10% for 30 years. And what did they bring? And their economy went up now to $5 trillion. What did that happen? They made a world-class infrastructure at the cost of $1 trillion. And in $1 trillion, they were able to bring 600 million people above the poverty line, and they brought 400 million Chinese to middle class. What will happen in India? Now with the fertility rate almost coming down to 1.2, our population will settle at about 1.5 billion. It is not going to rise very spectacular, but that economy is going from $2.5 trillion to $5 trillion. So imagine if the current middle class is 100 million, that current middle class will go up to 400 million. And the number of people below poverty line, that currently is about 400 million, will hopefully be less than 100 million. So please remember that, do not compare that in 10 years the people buying power will remain the same. In fact, their aspiration will increase. They will want bigger and bigger houses. And in terms of FSI, my point is there is also a cost element involved. If you build a 60-degree 30 tower and a 60 tower, the cost is not 2:1, it is 3:1. If you make it 120 towers, the cost is not 4:1 with 30, it is 7:1. So somebody has to be really, until and unless some technology revolution happens and the cost remain 1:1, I think it is foolishness to make 150 tower building, because the cost goes up so high that you cannot sustain it.
So basically, is it safe for me to assume that Bombay will not have a 100-floor building in the next 10 years, you think?
It should not, because the cost, look at the cost, it will not be viable. You make 100, look, 30 to 60, the cost is 1.5 times. It is, the percentage goes up by that, 150%, not by 100%. You go from 60 to 120, the cost does not go by 100%, it goes by 175%. To cover that up, you have to, so that means 120 store, if currently, say for example, you have a 76-star building, and if the highest floor was at, say, 16 crores, then to cover that cost, that 180 crore will have to be 35 crores for the same cost. Now, somebody has to be smart enough, or somebody just for self-actualization. Okay, I bought the highest floor, will pay 35 crore. Now you have to bank on luck to do that. So why do you want to do on bank on luck? Bank on your business parameters.
Okay.
I think that sums up the questions from everybody here. We couldn't thank you enough.
Okay, I think since the bell has been rung unofficially, thank you Chaitanya, Prashant, Kaizad. I think we have covered a lot of journey in this discussion. I'm personally surprised with some of the candor that Prashant showed in terms of showing the direction that you earlier were and the upgrade you have done. So all the best for that. And same to you, Kaizad. And Chaitanya and me, we'll keep watching you guys and keep monitoring how you all are doing. Okay, thank you. Akasha, all yours.
Thank you very much. Can we have a round of applause for the wonderful panel and the discussions that we had? Superb. So gentlemen, before we leave, I would request Mr. Nayan Gandhi to join us on stage and present our fondest token of appreciation to Mr. Prashant Bindal, sir. And just so that you know, the certificates that you are receiving are green certificates. So every certificate that you receive, we've planted 10 trees in Maharashtra, and this is a token of appreciation for that. We would request Mr. Gaurav Garat to join us and present a token of appreciation to Mr. Chaitanya Seth.